Hello and welcome to the final episode of Season 1 of Talk Franchise, Home Instead's podcast series aiming to give you an insight into the world of franchising and more specifically franchising with Home Instead. Over the last 12 episodes, we've spoken to a number of people overviewing the sector, franchising generally, operations, support, recruitment, resales, a whole manner of things aiming to help you understand franchising. And so I'm really excited to be joined by Rebecca Bradley today. Rebecca is a general manager across a multi-unit operation in the Northwest, across Chester, Liverpool and Wirral. And I'm really excited to have her perspective on things because we've spoken to a lot of people at our national office and a lot of franchisees. And so to get a perspective of a general manager for the general manager role specifically, but also insights into the team, I think is very, very interesting. So I hope you enjoy. Rebecca, hello.
Hello, morning, Luke.
Thank you very much for joining me today.
No problem.
I am going to call you Bex throughout the rest of the episode. It feels a bit weird calling you Rebecca, but for everyone, this is Rebecca Bradley. Before we get into it, would you like to kind of introduce yourself? I think you've got a very interesting kind of background with Home Instead, but a great perspective from the kind of career you've had and the roles you've been in. So I think kind of an introduction would be really useful.
Sure. I've worked for Home Instead for 9 years now. Oh. It's gone really, really, really quick. But the majority of my career has been in care after leaving university. I became a registered manager when I was 25, so quickly had to grow up and put my professional head on and learn the ropes. Mm-hmm. And then that was actually for a different agency, for a competitor at the time, Bluebird. And I worked there for about 6 years. And that's where I got my love for the care industry. Okay. But I didn't feel like the company was quite right for me. And fortunately, I always say all good things happen for a reason. And it just kind of came to me because I got headhunted to work over in Yorkshire, where I'm from. Okay. And so I started working for Home Instead again as the registered manager there for the Wetherby and Leeds branch, and just fell in love with the ethos of Home Instead, the values, the culture, and felt that was the company I really wanted to continue my career with. So I was registered manager for about 3-4 years, okay. And it was at a time where it was quite a small Home Instead, had been open for quite some time, and when I joined, it was a resale. So I was fortunate enough to start with a brand new owner. So it was nice because I was brand new, the owner was brand new, and we kind of figured it out together. Mm-hmm. And he had that commercial knowledge and I had the registered manager knowledge and of regulations, etc. So we worked really well together. And then as I developed my role, so the owner at the time bought another Home Instead franchise, so it just seemed right for me to then become general manager because he could then step away and really focus on the other office, and I could take the lead on the existing office that I knew, and I had built that relationship up with the whole team. So from then, so I actually worked there for 6 years and then moved over here. Now I live in North Wales, and I work for the Chester, Liverpool South and Wirral branch, owned by Mike and Kath Charlton. And I was really fortunate as the franchise business, as things happened in my life and I moved areas, I was able to stay with Home Instead, which I was really, really, really thankful for, because actually when I left, when I moved locations, I started looking at other companies because there actually wasn't anything because, I was in a space where there wasn't as many Home Insteads around me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to start looking at, what I can do for other agencies. And had an interview with Helping Hands, I had an interview with Right at Home, and it just didn't feel right. I just couldn't do it. And I just came back to Home Instead. And at the time, I was really thankful that they were looking for a general manager in Chester. So joined the team. Again, it was resale. So Mike and Kath had just acquired the office.
Yep.
So I supported, went through the whole change curve as a lot changes when owners come in and take over. And supported the team a lot to make sure that we were doing the right things.
Yep.
And then once Tess was kind of up and running really well, I then became group general manager over all of our 4 offices. So we've got 2 offices in the Wirral, 1 in Liverpool South, and then Chester. So now I work with an executive leadership team, and we operate over all 4 of the offices. So it's very, very different from when I first started to being a registered manager for a small office with five people in the team. Mm-hmm. And now I run a business which we have 40 key players and 300 care professionals. So yeah, I'm really proud of where I've come and where Home Instead's come as well, because the business has allowed me to grow massively within my career as well. So, and without talking too much, Luke, about myself.
That's what we're here for. We need to be talking.
I kind of came into it because my grandpa was living with Parkinson's disease for many years. My grandma is now living with Alzheimer's, and Home Instead actually cared for her in her own home. Sadly, she's had to go into a care home now because she wasn't able to stay at home. But I wouldn't let anybody else but Home Instead care for my family, which really says a lot. Mm-hmm. But we as a family, when we were caring for my grandpa with Parkinson's, had no idea anything like this was even available. So
were you just powering through it as a family?
We were.
Right, okay.
And he'd fall quite often because he really shuffled. And his mobility became really, really poor. So he was constantly falling. Because of his medication, if he didn't have it on time, he would hallucinate quite badly. Right. So Grandma was constantly clock watching, and we couldn't go out for very long without Grandpa. And also, we couldn't take him out too many places because of his mobility, etc. And sadly, he had a fall, ended up breaking his hip, and went into hospital and never came home because that's when the Parkinson's really did take over. And the medication wasn't managed properly. And I really do feel if we'd have had Home Instead or somebody, he would have stayed at home for longer. Mm-hmm. So it's another passion of mine to want to tell everybody. It's kind of the world's best kept secret, isn't it, Home Instead? And you don't know about it until you need it. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gave me the want to do this job, definitely.
I mean, that's an amazing introduction. Thank you for sharing all of that. And it in a sense, it makes it clear why I was really keen to have you on the podcast, because I think we've over the course of, I think this is our 13th episode, we've covered kind of an overview of what a franchise business entails, and in a sense we're trying to help people who are interested in franchising generally, or maybe they know they want to buy a home instead. We're talking to them about, how does it work, looking at territories, what are the operations within a business, what's the support like for a franchisee, regulatory considerations and compliance, learning and development, resale processes, funding. We've covered the full scope, and it's always struck me that the one conversation missing is specifically speaking to someone within a team, because we're always talking about the team as something underneath the franchise owner, which is a relevant perspective, but it's really interesting to get that view. And the fact that you've kind of got this personal connection to care. So firstly, you understand why someone would need Home Instead level care, or care generally. You've then had a long career in the care sector, worked in a registered care manager role, which is, that's a unique insight in and of itself because it's such a fundamental role within a business. But then working across multiple Home Instead offices, the multi-unit, in different regions. I mean, the perspective is really amazing and it's really unique. So your introduction has basically made it quite clear why you were the right person to invite on this. So thank you, Bex. So we'll come on to kind of what the role is and what your day-to-day looks like and things like that. But I guess it might seem obvious to us. We talk about every day. General managers just kind of terms that we throw around. And I think a lot of people do understand that. But specifically for home instead, well, actually, rather, let's talk about home care firstly, and then we'll speak maybe about the nuances of home instead. So what does the general manager do in a home care business?
Okay, so it changes as the business grows as well. So it's a really broad term, but I'd say, our role is to embed that culture and to make sure that that culture is being followed and our brand promise is being adhered to. Mm-hmm. I'll kind of try and do it from a few different perspectives. So thinking about when I was general manager for one office and didn't have as big a team, obviously that's very easy to do because you're with everyone every day and you're literally sat next to everyone. And that becomes, you really have to tailor your approach when the business grows. But in terms of, what we actually do, our responsibility is to lead our teams, to make sure they're delivering against their KPIs. But it's really that high level strategy of making sure we have a really good marketing strategy, making sure the phone rings, making sure we have a very good recruitment and retention strategy, and then also from actually care, making sure that we're delivering safe, effective, caring, well-led care. Mm-hmm. We're always striving for an outstanding with CQC ratings.
Good to hear.
We're delivering a safe service to our clients. Any complaints are handled well and dealt with promptly. To then also the kind of finances of the business to make sure that we're running a profitable business and making decisions when you have to or when things come into play. So I guess as a general manager, you're on the business instead of in the business, but you're constantly analysing every separate aspect of the business to make sure commercially it's viable and to make sure that you're delivering that fantastic care as well. So you're looking at all the different aspects at once, which again, when you're small, you'll do a lot of that yourself. Yep. So you will potentially, depending on where it is within the business, if you have got a registered care manager, you would manage them. If you don't, you would perform their role. Yep. I have been a registered manager as well as being a GM when the office was a bit smaller, to now where I've got registered managers within all of the offices. So depending on who you have within your business, you will do all of that and you'll either oversee it or be involved directly in that, depending on the structure really.
So the role is it's a thing. It's loosely a thing, but I guess what you're saying is depending on what stage of the journey the business is at, if it's multi-unit or single, geographical considerations probably impact things because I guess that impacts like recruitment and stuff. So it's a massively varied role depending on what the business is and what stage of the journey it's at. And so. If we think about that's kind of home care generally then, and of course that applies to kind of home instead, but at what point would a general manager be implemented in a business? Because it sounds like a fundamental role, but there's probably stages of the franchising journey that are too soon for a franchisee, right? So to help people understand generally, and I'm not saying 8 years in or anything like that, what does the business look like when it's time to implement a GM?
I mean, you have to have a good financial stability, a model to invest in that person. Yep. I think a good point would be when the owners are ready for that, in a sense of they want to step back and maybe work on more of the thought leadership things within their business. So very much now my owners are on various boards, they network to a very high level, and they're not in the business on a day-to-day, and allow me to lead that team and that business. So it is kind of when the owner is ready to make that transition. But if I think about my journey, and if the business gets to, I progress quite quickly, because as I started in Wetherby, it was kind of 3 years in to when we took over. But obviously it had already been going for some time after that, but it was still quite small in terms of the amount of clients we had and the revenue it was bringing in. But we quickly grew the business. So then that worked for me, because we quickly grew and I grew as well. So it was typically probably about 3 years in if you get to a good stage of growth. Okay. And when you look at the financial kind of structure within the strategic or the growth or the operational, it's probably within that growth phase. But I think it's really important that the owner does take on that responsibility of the thought leadership, because that's what's going to build your reputation and build your brand even further. So as soon as you can get one, the better.
Yeah. Good shout. And I think you touched on something there, which is, a general manager allows for a franchisee to kind of step away from aspects of the business and empower the team to kind of do that under kind of a general manager, manager's leadership. But you mentioned thought leadership, and I think that's a really important point for people to understand, which is just because you've stepped out of the detail and the day-to-day doesn't mean you've stepped truly out of the business, and you can't just disappear and let it kind of run itself, because we're a very community-driven brand, and it's important to have local presence, no matter the size of the business. I think that's one of the primary drivers of a successful homestead business, isn't it? So as you're taking over kind of the day-to-day operations of that business, I suppose you've then got the owner thinking about networking, people, culture, and thought leadership more obviously.
Definitely. And I think as long as you've got that good communication channel with your GM, the GM's responsibility is to report what's going on and report that data to the owner. So that gives the owner the confidence of, okay, I know what's going on here, and this is maybe something we need to look at or develop. It gives them the kind of guidance as to where they can focus their time as well, and what kind of things is important and what kind of voice they want in the space. We're really trying to develop things like healthcare at home now. So fortunately, one of our owners is a registered nurse, so she's really trying to build relationships with hospitals, etc., so that we can kind of develop that area. But I think it's also something that the franchise owner can choose to do when they want as well, and it gives that kind of flexible work-life balance for them as well, which is important.
Definitely. I speak to a lot of people that are very, very interested in running a homestead business, but they sort of want the reassurance that that all of this hard work, kind of building a business or taking over a resale, will eventually allow for a better work-life balance. Actually, it's somewhat of a trade-off. So I know if you, in a sense, you oversee so much within a business that you're going to have lots of goals and ways to measure success. But for you, what are your primary drivers? How do you know that you're doing a good job, or that you're actually, the businesses you're overseeing are doing well?
So I think you can look at it from a high levels perspective of measures, and then drill into the detail if you recognise something's not quite right. But for me, that how I can see if one of my office is successful is the commercial side of business. So if if it's growing in terms of not just the revenue, but the hours of the care that we're delivering. Making sure that we've got a good package size for our clients and they're really getting the quality service that we should give. To then kind of that quality aspect of, how are our reviews looking? Are we getting some really good reviews from the clients? What's our peak like? That's our kind of annual survey that goes out to care pros and clients. Are they happy at in their jobs? Are the clients happy at the care they're receiving? To then also, the profitability of the business as well, because if you don't manage your finances well, that's, you can grow a business as much as you want to grow it, but if you haven't got the fundamental financial model in place, things could go wrong quite quickly. And I've seen that happen as well. So if, it's important that they are, the businesses are managed well. Obviously we're netting clients and we're netting care pros as well. All of those things would be key indicators for me.
Great. And how would you measure, for example, I know everyone's going to have different flavours and different styles of this, but I'd be interested in your perspective. How do you measure kind of the people and the cultural side of things? Is it gut feel? Is it speaking to everyone, or is it, are there some data points that you use? I think people would be interested in that.
Yeah, I think that's important, and that's massively shifted for me, because with me at the start being with everyone all the time, every day, to now sometimes only seeing some people once a week. It's kind of actually better if you're not there as much.
Okay.
Because I feel when you do go, you notice things more, and you're not naturally in it every day, and probably things that you wouldn't recognise you do when you're not there as often.
Yeah, interesting, yeah.
But I think, we do kind of, we don't just do peak, we do kind of survey monkeys as well to all of our staff on a 3 monthly basis. So, and we have our head of people has a kind of parameter that says how happy, your first question always, how happy are you in your job? And it's a 0 to 10. And we can see if that is kind of going up or going down, and if there's something we need to rectify. But I think it's something that I can sense. I think actually your culture links in with your performance of your team. And the biggest thing that people always ask me is, what's the most important thing, and how do you grow your business? It's your team. And if your team are performing, that's when you grow your business. So all of the measures that I spoke about before, that happens because you've got a good and proactive and high-performing team, and it just will not happen if you don't have that. So that's another way of me sensing the culture, but also the voice of the clients and the care pros, because our culture is open, honest, transparency, very much support and quality. So if the clients and care pros aren't happy, there's something not quite right.
No, it's interesting that, because that kind of happens at every level in Homestead. You've been at Homestead for 9 years. I've been here for 8. It's quite common, isn't it, for people to stay a long period of time? It feels people are either here a couple of months and it's maybe not right for them, and they want to transition to something else, or you just fresh out of uni as well. So it's all I know too. But I remember being really surprised. I kind of went into a marketing assistant interview, like sort of preparing all my marketing answers, and 45 minutes of the hour interview was asking about a disability support work role that I had at uni. And I was like, what? Couldn't really get my head around it at that point. And then kind of step into that role and you realise it's like, well, because we first kind of need to know that you're like aligned to the values and the culture and the way that we think, because there's lots of training you can do in all various things, and you'll learn in the role and all that, but you can't really learn how to be kind of that kind of way. And so I then have to think about it for franchisees. Are they going to uphold that culture? Are they going to think about people in the way that you just described? And if you get that right, like Mike and Kath, you're the owners of the businesses that you run, they're creme de la creme kind of brand aligned franchisees, aren't they?
Yeah.
And if then that then feeds into you, it feeds into the office team, and then the care pros and clients are happy as a result. We have to think about people first, don't we? And so you're absolutely right. We would say like the reward for thinking about that, thinking about the relationships, thinking about the quality of care, and ultimately the quality of care is only there by thinking about the wider cultural experience.
Yeah.
And you get all that right.
Yeah.
The outcome is a successful
It's huge,
business.
yeah. But I've also been there, I've been there when there's been massively rocky times within our teams, which I think is quite normal and natural that, when you first buy an office and maybe a previous owner's owned it for a long time and have built those relationships over time, it's a big, big, big change to people, and naturally people don't like change. So you have to work on your change mindset and get your teams to really try and embed that culture, because naturally any business needs to change over time. So I've seen it when it's tough as well, and really try to put things in place to get it to a level where I'm comfortable with the culture.
I think it's a job that never ends, isn't it?
No.
I guess that's kind of the thing, and everyone goes through things outside of work, and that can sometimes come in, and political and macroeconomic things that impact the sector and franchising generally. There's just lots of stuff. We're now in a weird phase where you kind of can't ignore technology and AI and what that does, but we're a very human-centered business, and that's sort of, on one hand it's incredibly exciting, on one hand there's question marks about what the future looks like. It's an ever-changing world generally, and then within care it's kind of wild as well. So that's really, really interesting. And one thing I'd be very curious about when you're sort of talking about, you mentioned maybe there's some people that you might see once a week, for example. It's a natural outcome of overseeing multiple territories that are geographically separated and things like that. And we very much empower multi-unit ownership. So this is something that either lots of people listening might eventually, come across these aspects, I guess. I was going to say challenges, but I just think it's different. And so it's going to be something a lot of people come across. Maybe there are existing franchisees that are interested in it as well, or maybe out of just simply curiosity. But how does one split their time? So thinking about culture, thinking about operations and all these things, how do you split your time across 4 businesses? Yeah,
I think I've kind of got to a stage now where I equally split all of the offices, more so because we've got really trusted teams. Okay. We acquired our Liverpool South office about 2 years ago. Yeah. So then I would spend 50% of my time there, because obviously you go through a lot of change when you first take over, and you're kind of analysing what's going on and what we need to change, or what we need to keep doing. So I'd say as the biggest thing is to get your teams to a level where they feel confident and you feel confident, and you feel confident that they're capable to deal with that day-to-day running of the business. And you can focus on the strategic 3-year plans and analysing the business from afar. But I think, if you are confident in your teams, you can equally split out. But I'll make sure each week I check in on each of my offices to make sure that they're happy if anything's going on, or anything they want to just run by me, or they've got any big challenges that are coming up. So it does vary, or there'll be something that happens. Or where you'll get sickness in a team, or you'll get stuff that genuinely happens in people's lives, so they have to take time off. I can be there to step in if that's needed as well. But right now, I'd say it was equally split.
And I suppose that's like the ideal, isn't it? You as you say, you've got to be reactive. There's so many things that change, like these variables that shoot off in the care sector. When you're talking about people's lives, and you can't go to work if you're sick, and different preferences that people have and clashes in availability and finding the right people and keeping the right people. We also have very high standards with who delivers that care and all these. So I guess you have to be reactive and be agile, which is an answer in and of itself. But it makes sense what you say, sort of, you take over a new business, that needs more attention right now. Mm-hmm. But if you get the other ones right, which I guess we also have kind of a process at Homestead to ensure that actually you've not got, because the immediate question that comes to mind was what if there's 3 businesses that all need that 50% level of attention that you described for Liverpool South, and actually by design we're trying to avoid those situations because you get to a stage with your existing businesses and then kind of a year of performance in between, and just say, look, these actually are ready for me to reallocate my time, aren't they?
Yeah. So we had Chester for, I say we, Mike and Kath. I always say we because it's our businesses.
Absolutely.
We had Chester for, I think, 2.5 or 3 years before they bought Liverpool South.
Okay.
For that purpose, that Chester needed the attention. So unless you have, quite a big leadership team, which other offices do, and they could probably acquire 2 at the same time, but where we're at, we could just take on 1 individually at the moment, because we were confident that other offices were running well. Then it was time to focus on another one.
Well, that's one of the kind of the challenges in like Imogen and I's kind of role is, it'd be amazing just to have resales going through all the time with people who are ambitious and want them and they're hungry, and sometimes you have to kind of hold it back a little bit, but it's not just to say no, but rather it's to say not quite now, because actually it'd be better to have business number 1 or 1, 2 and 3 to be performing really well and be stable, and the team are kind of empowered to then transition.
You need that,
So I think we've touched on the role, we've touched on the nuances within it, and your measure of success, certainly. Success aside, for you personally, what do you think, what does a good day look like and what does a bad day look like? Because we've never hidden from the fact on this podcast or even at home instead, or the way we just talk about it generally, that for what is an incredibly rewarding and fulfilling sector, it's fraught with tough days, isn't it? It can be a hard sector. It's emotional, which is an important nuance of the sector. So what does a really good day look like for you, and what does a bad day look like for you?
I'll start with the good.
Yeah.
I think the good days are when you're helping a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So the good days are when you get a lot of high quality inquiries of people that actually need the support, and we can help them, and we can do that quickly, because there's nothing more rewarding than actually delivering in what, we're here to do. I think as well when we have regular team meetings with our care pros and our key players, they're fantastic days for me, because I, again, get to, put an eye over the culture. I get to see what the feel is of the people that are working for. And if they're positive and can give fantastic stories of how they've helped people, or when our key players are passionate about solving problems and they're passionate about, yes, we've just converted all these clients and, we've just got all these inquiries come in. When people are positive about the business thriving, that's really good days. And when, they're happy within their roles as well. Mm-hmm. And obviously the bad days come. The bad days are when you sadly lose a lot of clients. Or you're constantly trying to fill your leaky bucket, and you've just taken that positive, you've taken that one really, really good reward, and then unfortunately something happens to another client. So you're not then seeing the kind of financial impact of that. And that's probably the most frustrating thing of the business, because we are dealing with people, sadly, and we can't control what happens in certain aspects. So that can be quite frustrating, but the positives of when it goes well and it goes right way overcome the negatives, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's also tough times because it's hard when you're dealing with 40 office staff to keep everybody motivated all at once, because it naturally is, their roles are hard. And again, they're dealing with people, so they're dealing with change every day.
Yeah.
So keeping them motivated, and when they can see, recruitment's going well and retention's well, things like that, then that really gives me a positive spin to, okay, look, our strategies as an ELT are working here, and that's supporting my team as well. But yeah, there's
makes it even more challenging because I was just thinking, well, if your Chester office is having one of those good days you just described, or a good week and everything's great, doesn't necessarily mean that your other ones are going to be in the exact same place. So it's sort of, I guess, for your specific role and a franchisees, you have that even more different perspective. That means your days are going to be dependent on more variables than just the office team in an individual territory, right?
Yeah, it is really variable, and I think what I've learned as being an enterprise GM to being a GM for one office is it's extremely rare that you get success from every business all at once.
Yeah.
And that can be tough. And it's taken me time to kind of understand that and be okay with that, that naturally businesses are going to ebb and flow at any point. But when they are all thriving and growing, that's just brilliant.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's what you do it for. You keep working through all the bad days, and there'll be there's times where it's all firing off. But being prepared for the bad days kind of helps as well, doesn't it? Like, it's not the exact same. But finding new franchisees, you can have months where it feels like, it's been a long time since you've spoken to someone who's perfect, and then all of a sudden in the space and it's happens, like almost anticipating the fact that there's no real stability. And I know it's wildly different. There's different stakes when you're talking about care for people versus just taking over a business or purchasing a business, but it all relates in some way.
It does. It's all the business, isn't it? And what you do is just as important as what I do, because if you don't sell franchises and the business isn't thriving, then we're not going to get the high level support that National Office gives. So it's important. We all
one big team.
Yeah.
Like however many people there are, like 15,000 total people or something in the
amazing,
UK. Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit so we've kind of spoken about what it is that you do and your career, and in a sense we've probably touched on it a little bit, but being very kind of specific, what are the essential skills for a GM? And I guess thinking in from the perspective of a franchisee who's thinking, how will I know at some point in the future, if I take over a resale today, how will I know that? Sorry, let me rephrase. They've taken over a resale and they've got to the stage where they think, okay, now's an appropriate time based on the stability for me to do that. So now the challenge is finding a you to do that in their business. What skills should they be looking for?
So definitely somebody who's passionate about the business 100%, with the right mindset, change mindset and positive culture. I think there's different GMs within the network that have different skills and backgrounds. But I guess how I feel what's really important is as a GM, you've got to have that commercial knowledge.
Yeah.
The care, I think it is important they have an understanding of regulations and care and knowledge, because naturally a GM will manage the registered care managers, so you'd need to be able to hold them to account on things as well.
Yeah.
But I think if the purpose of the GM role is to take on that leadership and commercial management of the business. So in an ideal world, you'd have someone that has either come from a commercial background, but has really, really quite high level leadership skills, and is a people person because it's a people business, and the majority of your team will be in this because they care about what they do, and you have to be able to relate to that. So I think leadership skills are imperative, but under more of kind of a radical candor kind of style where you care deeply and you challenge appropriately as well. Because if you've got if you come from too much of a corporate background, it doesn't fit too well into our model. But you still have to have, that strong sense of leadership. But also, someone that understands how to deliver a plan and a strategy and kind of work with no rule book.
Yeah.
So I have no day-to-day tasks that I absolutely have to complete. You have to understand how to manage a business and run a business effectively and put things in place so that your team are reporting to you. So I guess all of that comes from understanding managing and leadership.
Yeah.
Definitely from I'd say experience in management or leadership, definitely.
That's a really, really good overview. And not just focusing on those attributes, but ensuring that it's balanced with the people skills and the necessary leadership skills as a result. I think it's a really good point. Yeah. It's not too dissimilar to, it's somewhat different, but the profile of a franchisee, we kind of have to consider the same because they're going to have quite a generalized view. They can't be too specific in the marketing or financials or anything. They kind of have to understand it all. But just as you said, someone who maybe came from a corporate background and they're used to more ruthless kind of leadership or management styles, and it's all about KPIs and targets. We have those.
Yeah.
But there's a different driver day to day, isn't there? And the KPIs are a way to measure that driver rather than being the sole focus.
Yeah, I think if that's really important, that could be really beneficial if they've got those people kind of interpersonal skills, because it's just the people within this business, are here to care and are here to do a good thing. And if one conversion doesn't go 100%, then there's probably a reason why. But it is still, if you can get that mix, having a sales background, I could see being really beneficial as well, because we are, we're a sales business, and that's where sometimes we can lack as well because we're too caring and we don't drive to hit the sales as much. So I think as long as they are have those interpersonal skills, it could be really powerful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So who reports into you then? Let's have So let's separate the way we do this, because there'll be a lot of people who are, so we only have resales now.
Okay.
There's no new territories, so in a sense, no one will ever be starting something from scratch. And if they are, they would be an existing franchisee who understands this already.
Sure.
So I'd be really interested in understanding, what does a team look like in a single unit territory, like your Wetherby experience, for example? Understanding there's going to be some sway depending on the journey you're at, but in a single unit, and then versus what you are currently doing across multiple units or an enterprise business. So what does the team structure look like?
Yeah, so so if a single kind of unit as a day-to-day, it would be probably more so that you would run every element of the kind of commercial strategies. So you probably just have a registered care manager reporting to you, and maybe a finance officer. So you would be the person that deals with all the marketing, recruitment, finance, etc. But obviously on a smaller scale.
Yep.
So it'd just be the registered manager reporting to you. Now, as we've grown and now I've got 4, I've developed a leadership team. So we have an ELT.
Yep.
So I have a head of business operations who is responsible for all business development and has her own team. So has a community engagement officer within each of the offices. And she also leads our digital marketing and data and projects as well.
Okay.
And leads the finance team. So that all comes into the kind of business operations.
Okay.
But in essence, her role is to make sure we are growing the business and the inquiries are coming in at a high level and a quality level. And then I have a head of people who is responsible for the recruitment and retention strategies of care professionals and leads that team, so doesn't directly do recruitment. She has a hiring coordinator who does the interviews and an admin assistant who does all of the references and DVS checks, etc.
Okay.
And then she has a training team as part of it as well, so learning and development team who provides all the onboarding training, city and guilds, etc. So those 2 are within my executive leadership team who directly report to me and have obviously set KPIs and report to me on a monthly basis. And then I have a registered care manager within each of the offices that also report to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're overseeing the care functions, aren't they, in the businesses?
Yeah. So they all have, we've tried to keep it simple and have kind of replicate teams within each offices.
Yeah.
So in essence, so a single unit, I have Chester. Each office we treat as like a single unit. So they all actually have the same teams. So each care manager has 2 assistant care managers, a field support, and a scheduler.
It's an interesting way of doing it, that, actually.
So it's replicated.
Yeah, and I guess you can kind of benchmark things against and see how it. You've almost got an opportunity to like A/B test things and all this kind of stuff. Don't you? That's interesting. I guess not every franchisee would necessarily be able to get there immediately. No. In the case of, say, you take over £1 million resale and there's a GM there and there's 10 people in the office or 15 people and then the second one you buy is 200,000 and there's 3 people in the office. In a sense, they can eventually kind of balance out and get to what you're saying, but there'll be a period of time where it's going to be different, isn't it? That's really interesting. That, well, it's quite fascinating that it's the similar role, and I know that they're different roles. You do different things whether you're in a single territory or across a few. But eventually building out your own ELT to do that, and I guess, I mean, thinking about there's Sahale up in Scotland, he was on one of these, I think 10 offices now. He's kind of got like a head office now, doesn't he? And you kind of go, and I think there's just as many people in the head office as we have in Warrington. Or there's, it feels certainly like you're in an office of that scale. And I just think that's fascinating too, that's the size and scale that these multi-unit operations can get to. In terms of a team structure, revenues, performance aside, that's not what I'm concerned with here, but care is often viewed as a sector where, there's these really small local teams doing an amazing kind of community-driven job, but it's unusual when you speak to someone about a care business that they could imagine it being that size and scale, if you know what I mean. People that are outside of the sector, for sure. So I guess we'll move to kind of thinking about we've spoken about the team, we've spoken about your role, we've spoken about office and territory nuances and things like that. But what we do is we deliver care to clients, we support their families by proxy, and we have to uphold an amazing role for care professionals. That is kind of the home instead bread and butter. So how do you ensure that care professionals feel supported and acknowledged and rewarded in their role?
That's really, really important, especially in this industry, because everyone is essentially lone working and you're not seeing them every day like you see your office staff. So I think being visible is really, really, really important, and we lacked that a lot during COVID. and actually saw the kind of negative impact on that. So we always make sure we do regular touch points. So we hold a care professional day every quarter to make sure that care professionals can all come in and meet us and talk to us. But something that we kind of set up kind of late last year was we do just ELT focus groups.
Okay.
So just myself, the head of people and the business operations will invite care professionals in, as many or as little, just anybody that wants to be there, really informal kind of setting, just to talk and go, so that they know, they know they've got a voice, and they know that, because as you grow, it's harder to keep connected with, you'll go from having a really personal relationship with all the care professionals to sadly not always knowing who everyone is, because it's really hard when there's 4 offices and you're not involved in all of the training, etc. So even though I always make a point to make sure that when they first start with us, I introduce Home Instead personally so they know who I am. So it was really important that we allowed a touch point for them to meet with us so that they feel as if they're connected, and if there's big changes or something that's going on, we can kind of elaborate and tell them, give them the why, and allow them to connect with us, and not just thinking all of these decisions are being made and we don't have any input into this at all.
Yep.
So that was definitely really, really important. So we do that every quarter, but the main thing that's fundamental to keeping them engaged and supporting them is to make sure that we do our regular supervisions and appraisals and support visits with them, because that's the time that they can connect and talk up if they've got any issues, really.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it's amazing what can come from making people feel included in something.
Exactly.
And I think across the care sector, in a wider sense, just across the UK, it's well, you hear about the recruitment and retention challenges of care, and some of those things are symptomatic of the local authority side of things, and minimum wage jobs and 0-hour contracts, and just all of the issues people have to deal with, as well as it then being a really stressful, kind of burdensome role. But it looks a little different at Home Instead, doesn't it? Because you're trying to not just treat people as kind of cannon fodder, like throw them at a role because they'll only be here a short amount of time and there's just more people to come. In a sense, we are thinking about this in a long-term nature. And I think one of those things, well, even just the fact we call them care professionals, is one of those indicators that we don't view this as an unskilled, non-important role. This is, it's everything.
Yeah, massively. And we have some, care professionals that are just amazing, and they're all amazing, but equally we have care professionals that have come from really highly skilled professional jobs join us because they, it's kind of that time in their life where they want to give back and they want a really rewarding role. So we need to treat them as those, those professionals. And we do like a career pathway for all of our care professionals. So they get rewarded with higher pay when they do certain different training modules with us. Okay, cool. So we want to make it really clear that this is a professional role that you can join. But also we do a lot of work with Chester University for the student nurses. Oh, wow. So it's on both ends. You can come here and have a fantastic job when you retire, or you can start your career with us and develop. And everyone, no matter what stage they are in their career, benefits from all the training that we give. Because, we've had a young student medic join us, and he's just brilliant. But his dad was actually living with Parkinson's. Okay. So I said, even though he only did a bit of ad hoc work for us when he's not at uni, I said, you get on the Parkinson's course because that'll really help you with your dad. Mm-hmm. So, and he really appreciated that. So it's not always about the money or the, wanting to develop it. It's a life skills that it gives you as well. Mm-hmm.
You've got to tick all those boxes because, as you say, money's not the main driver for some people. If people have retired and they've come from a corporate background, their pension's paying out, whatever it is. I've spoken to people, but from the marketing days, where for them it's closer to a volunteering role than it is kind of like a paid job, isn't it? For them, it's the fulfillment, and then some people it's sort of by the by what you get paid, but acknowledgement and feeling part of something wider and being connected, and even just the natural fulfillment of the role. So it's really nice to hear that those boxes being ticked, and there really are career opportunities for people. It's not a 0-hour wage job that you'll be in for maybe a few months and you'll move on for 10 or 15p more per hour or something like that. Yeah. So we're closing off here. I think we've spoken about a lot. We're not quite done, but I'm going to throw it over to you I'm going to ask you a question to kind of close it off. But I think we've covered a lot of ground there. It's really interesting, I think, for people who, there's a lot of aspirational people who maybe done project management roles. They have managed people, but or maybe they have maybe even been general managers in other businesses. They'll understand things, but it's viewing it through the lens of home instead that I think is really useful here. Because if someone's going to buy a resale, whether it's already at a GM stage or it's going to get there, it's going to be very relevant to someone wanting to buy a franchise. And even if they don't want to buy a home instead franchise, hopefully it becomes relevant for other things. So I think what we've covered is really interesting. But I guess to close things off, I ask everyone who comes on this, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about a franchise? And I ask everyone with no brief because I think everyone's going to have a different answer to this.
Yeah, I think really kind of evaluate if this is right for you, because there's massively high rewards, but you have to put a lot of work in at the beginning.
Yep.
And that kind of first 2-3 years is going to be critical. And then the benefits will come. So I think I'd say timing is really important if it's right for the individual with, situations that they're going on in their lives, and they have the time to really commit themselves to this. And I've done, God, how many resales now? Is I think evaluate your team and do it quickly. Mm-hmm. Make those changes quickly if you need to as well, because it'll hold you back for it. That 2-3 years will be 5-6 years if you don't make those calls early. So I think get the team, get the culture that they want, not what they feel is being imposed on them. But I would never turn back. So, I'd always say it's a great business to be in. And I do think it gives owners fantastic opportunities and rewards, and they can really help their local communities, which is really important.
It's a good answer.
Thanks.
Yeah. That's different as well to other ones, which is exactly why I don't really caveat with anything, which is hard for me actually to do. But quite uniquely, you spoke about the handover process, which I think is important. Advice for people who maybe have decided, they've gone through the recruitment process, they're approved, they've bought a business. Now what? I think that's a really, really good advice. So thank you. Yeah,
don't expect anything. Don't go in with a preconceived opinion on what the office is going to look like and perform as. Evaluate it yourself when you get there and make quick decisions. And as soon as you can, implement someone like Bex in the business. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. Not looking for any other role opportunities. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. No problem. I know for a fact this will be very, very interesting and useful for people. So, yeah, thank you. You're going to go to the office 2 minutes around the corner, aren't you? So not too much of a drive back. But, yeah, thank you for your time. No problem, Luke.